Welcome back to the Senior Living Daily, where we merge timeless insights from the East with contemporary scientific knowledge from the West to empower you to flourish after 60. In this episode, we're diving into something that could truly change everything for you. Every year, hundreds of thousands of seniors face strokes, often unexpectedly and without any prior signs. What if the initial clues were right there in front of us all along? What if those familiar morning routines you've followed for years were silently increasing your risk of a stroke threefold? Today, I'm thrilled to welcome back a guest who has been raising awareness about this issue for decades. At over a century old, he's as sharp as ever and still actively practicing. Today, he's here to share essential insights that every senior should grasp before time runs out. Welcome back, Dr. Hinohara.
Thanks, Michael. It's truly a privilege. This is definitely one of the most critical messages I share with my patients over 60. Strokes don't just happen without warning. The indicators are present, the reasons are evident, and with proper awareness they can be averted. However, the day kicks off bright and early, usually right at the crack of dawn.
That truly makes me think. When we consider strokes, we often picture something intense, a sudden collapse, a slurred speech, a face that appears frozen. What you're pointing out is that the true warning signs frequently appear subtly. They appear at the most unexpected moments. Brushing our teeth, tying our shoes, pouring that first cup of coffee. All right, let's dive straight in.
Absolutely. This conversation is important because it goes beyond just emergencies. It's all about those subtle hints that appear initially, the small signals your body communicates before a stroke occurs. In this episode, we'll dive into those initial indicators, the ones that often go unnoticed by many. We'll dive into the most detrimental morning habits observed in seniors that quietly increase the risk of stroke. There are a few that could catch you off guard. Let me be clear, the last two are not only the most perilous, but also the most underestimated.
If you're over 60 or care about someone who is, I encourage you to stick around until the end, as this goes beyond just prevention. It's all about safeguarding. Every change we discuss today has the potential to transform an ordinary morning into a truly life-altering experience. So, Dr. Hinohara, what's the initial sign you advise your patients to be on the lookout for? It's not discomfort. It's not about feeling dizzy. It's something much more nuanced and significantly more perilous because of that.
A sudden change in coordination often serves as the first clear indication of a stroke for numerous seniors.
Your hand reaches for the toothbrush, but it misses its mark. You take a sip of your tea, and it spills just a bit. You attempt to button a shirt, but your fingers feel oddly disconnected, not paralyzed or numb, just off in a way that's hard to describe. The symptoms aren't particularly dramatic. That's the reason they often go unnoticed, yet they are rooted in neurology. Your brain controls every fluid motion you make. When something seems awkward, slow, or out of sync, it's not a sign of aging. That could lead to a disruption in blood flow. Have you ever encountered this with one of your patients?
There was a patient I encountered once, a 74-year-old retired accountant, still very sharp. He walked in not due to illness, but rather because he mentioned, "I've been misplacing my keys more frequently. My wife observed that I've been struggling with buttons." I initially suspected it might be arthritis, but I decided to dig a little deeper with more questions. He had a moment a few days earlier when he attempted to jot down a grocery list and completely blanked on how to spell milk. I just hit a mental wall. No headache, no slurring, yet something felt off. A scan revealed that he had a minor TIA earlier that week. The upcoming 48 hours were crucial. We made changes to his medication, improved his diet, kept an eye on his pressure and hydration levels. He never experienced a complete stroke because we recognized the signs early.
And that's the crux of the matter, right? Addressing it before it reaches a point of no return.
Absolutely. A study featured in the Lancet Neurology tracked patients post-TIA and revealed that the initial 48 hours posed the greatest risk. When a patient underwent treatment during that period, the likelihood of experiencing a major stroke decreased by over 80%. That's the speed at which you need to respond and how quickly you can alter the results.
That's both eye-opening and uplifting because it signifies awareness. Recognizing that something feels off can truly protect your mind.
Absolutely. But it's crucial to understand what to seek and the right timing.
Let's dive into that. As you've mentioned previously, the riskiest moment for a stroke isn't during a hectic day. It's truly the very start of the day. What's the reason behind that?
Your mind is alert even before you rise. For many individuals over the age of 60, the initial hour after waking up is when the body feels its most susceptible. Let me explain. Your body experiences dehydration overnight. It's been 6 to 8 hours since you last had any water. Your blood becomes a bit thicker. At dawn, your cortisol levels, known as the stress hormone, experience a significant spike. For numerous seniors, blood pressure tends to follow suit. This results in a perfect storm: thick blood, constricted vessels, and an increase in pressure within aging arteries. Combine that with how many individuals kick off their mornings, often sidetracked by unhealthy routines, and you've set the stage for a scenario where the risk of stroke silently escalates threefold.
Let's dive into those habits, as I'm sure many of them will resonate with a lot of you out there. And that's exactly the goal, right?
Absolutely, these are prevalent, rooted in culture, and quite handy. However, once you hit 60, the price of convenience can really add up. And the first one is the most underrated of all: neglecting water. Many seniors rise in the morning and make a beeline for their coffee. Perhaps they clean their teeth, glance at their phone, fill a cup, and kick off the day. However, they do not consume any water. That's an error. One of the biggest reasons is that after 8 hours of sleep, your blood resembles a sponge that has been completely drained of water. This leads to an increase in viscosity, making your blood thicker. Thicker blood flows more slowly, is more prone to clotting, and puts additional stress on both the heart and brain. A study published in the European Journal of Neurology revealed that inadequate hydration in the morning played a role in 48% of first-time ischemic strokes. Almost 50% not due to genetics, not because of diet, simply dehydration.
What would you suggest? What steps should a person take right after they wake up?
First and foremost, opt for water that is at room temperature or warm, rather than ice cold. A complete glass before the coffee, before the medication, before the headlines. Your brain is getting the hydration it craves, not just your mouth.
That resonates with me more than I anticipated, as I reflect on the countless mornings I've begun with just coffee and nothing more. No hydration, no furry friends, just diving headfirst into caffeine and stress. And I'm aware that many share this sentiment.
You're not. That's the common approach for many. However, your brain isn't seeking stimulation initially, it seeks circulation. And that doesn't begin with coffee. It all begins with staying hydrated.
It totally clicks. I really value your perspective because it focuses on empowerment rather than fear. It's all about functionality. You're guiding us in supporting the brain's natural efforts.
Absolutely. The body has a natural inclination to restore itself. The mind seeks to move freely. We simply need to refrain from interrupting it.
Okay, let's keep going. What's the second morning routine that increases stroke risk after turning 60?
Second habit is one that rarely gets mentioned, yet I observe it frequently among my older patients. It's about lingering in bed before getting up, remaining seated, scrolling through your phone, or simply being inactive for 20 to 30 minutes without any circulation. Once you hit 60, your blood vessels start to lose some of their elasticity. Transitioning from hours of lying down to sitting still can lead to blood pooling in the lower body, which in turn slows the return to the heart. It decreases brain perfusion. For individuals at risk of plaque or clot formation, this can serve as the catalyst.
That's surprising since we usually associate lounging in bed with relaxation. So what you're suggesting is that it's a vascular bottleneck.
Absolutely. The heart must exert more effort to circulate blood that has accumulated. When blood pressure spikes or a clot develops in a leg, those initial movements can cause it to rise. I've witnessed strokes occur in the bathroom when individuals shift abruptly from lying down to straining without a smooth transition.
So what's the more secure option?
Rise gently, yet embrace the day with purpose. Try doing ankle rolls while you're still lying down. Stretch those toes out. As you rise, take a moment for some shoulder circles and neck rolls, then stand up slowly and carefully. This promotes safe and gradual upward blood circulation. Just a couple of minutes of gentle movement can set the stage for a much safer morning.
That's an incredibly straightforward change. Once more, It's not about fear, it's about intelligence. That's the essence of longevity. Little instances, significant influence. Let's dive into habit number 3, as I believe this one resonates with almost everyone I know, particularly those in retirement.
Absolutely. One significant habit that increases stroke risk after the age of 60 is the act of skipping breakfast. And I'm not talking about a hearty breakfast. I'm referring to any kind of breakfast at all. Many older adults start their day with coffee, medications, and no food. Some might claim they're not hungry or are attempting intermittent fasting, but after the age of 60, that can pose risks, particularly for brain health.
What's the reason behind that? I always thought fasting was meant to be beneficial for health.
Fasting offers advantages for younger individuals who have stable blood sugar levels and a robust hormonal rhythm. However, after the age of 60, the body tends to be more susceptible to hypoglycemia or low blood sugar levels. When that occurs, the brain is the first to bear the consequences. The brain operates using glucose as its primary fuel source. It has limited storage capacity. If you're already feeling dehydrated and then skip meals, you're setting yourself up for a perfect storm of dizziness, mental fog, or even more serious issues, particularly if you're taking medication for blood pressure or diabetes.
That's an important observation, as I know many seniors, myself included, who take their medications in the morning and then go for hours without eating.
That's a highly risky mix. I've observed that numerous stroke cases in patients over 65 are linked to a combination of missed meals, medication, and stress. I suggest starting your day with a small, protein-packed breakfast. It doesn't have to be large. Half a boiled egg, a spoonful of yogurt, and a handful of soaked walnuts. Just the right amount to balance blood sugar and signal to your brain that you're backed up.
That's a change we can all embrace, and it's achievable even if your appetite isn't strong.
Absolutely. It's not just about hunger, it's all about flow, balance, and cadence.
That one really resonates with me, because for years I believed that skipping breakfast was a sign of discipline. I would genuinely feel a sense of pride, as if I were engaging in something beneficial for my well-being. But now I realize it's not about discipline. It's withholding from the mind precisely what it craves at the very moment it requires it the most.
You're not alone, Michael. For many seniors, particularly men, breakfast often feels like an optional meal. However, once you hit 60, everything related to circulation becomes essential. Now let's dive into habit number 4.
Hastening into anxiety. Your expression clearly shows you're curious about what that means. Share with me.
It's about catching up on the news before you even step out of bed, checking emails while enjoying breakfast, disputing with your partner over the day's agenda before you've even had a sip of water. The brain is in a delicate condition after sleep, which makes this a concern. It hasn't completely engaged its thinking mode yet. Your cortisol levels are already at their highest. Your blood pressure is on the rise. Introducing mental strain during that moment intensifies the physiological stress. A study from 2015, featured in the journal Stroke, tracked more than 93,000 individuals over a span exceeding 10 years. Research indicated that people who faced high psychological stress in the morning had a notably increased risk of experiencing a stroke, even after accounting for other risk factors such as age, smoking habits, and blood pressure levels. And here's the kicker. The highest risk was observed in individuals over 60, particularly within the initial 3 hours after waking up. When you wake up and grab your phone or jump straight into the day without taking a moment for yourself, you're piling on stress in a body that's already feeling tense.
Rather, establish a buffer. 10 peaceful minutes of stretching, a leisurely walk, or simply sitting with your tea and embracing stillness. Allow your mind some time to settle before diving into your to-do list. This doesn't embody luxury. It's all about maintaining your brain's health.
That study you brought up really hit me hard, because I always believed stress was purely emotional, something you experienced, vented about, and then just moved on from. Learning that it can physically prepare the body for a stroke, particularly in the morning, shifts my perspective on every notification, every headline, and every hurried conversation.
And now we've arrived at this moment. This is the moment we've all anticipated. You mentioned at the beginning of this episode that the final habit could be the most perilous and the most overlooked. All right, let's dive into the discussion. What is the fifth morning habit that subtly raises stroke risk and remains unnoticed by many seniors?
It's a single word, yet it serves as the bedrock for everything else. Quietness, but not the serene type. Let's dive into the topic of physical inactivity. Waking up and then spending the next hour or two lounging on the bed, at the table, or on the couch. Nothing is happening, no flow, just a sense of calm. That's a common experience we all share, particularly post-retirement. As you rise from slumber, you brew a steaming cup of coffee, perhaps flipping through the morning paper. It feels just right. It truly feels revitalizing, as if you're gently transitioning into the day.
So you're suggesting that being still might actually pose some risks?
Absolutely, particularly after the age of 60, as your blood tends to be more susceptible to clotting. The flow of blood in your veins becomes less efficient, and without movement, the circulatory system tends to slow down. The legs turn into areas where blood can accumulate, and that's where many clots start to form. This has been observed for many years in hospital environments. Patients who remain inactive after surgery face a significantly heightened risk of developing deep vein thrombosis. However, what a lot of folks overlook is that this same risk affects everyday seniors as well. Even if you're not lying in a hospital bed, spending extended periods seated right after you wake up can feel just as detrimental to your body.
That's a stark realization, as we often link danger to overexertion. However, this is quite the contrary. It's the risk of inaction.
Absolutely. A recent study featured in Circulation followed more than 8,000 adults aged 60 and above. Individuals who were sedentary for over 9 hours a day faced a doubled risk of stroke, even if they engaged in exercise later on. What's the reason behind that? It's not solely about the quantity of your movement. It's all about the timing of the movement. The first hour after waking is the key moment. That's the window. Moving early gets your circulation going. Your body knows it's time to rise and shine. However, if you remain stationary, the body interprets that as being in a state of rest. That stagnation, which may seem innocuous, actually emerges as one of the most significant indicators of stroke in later years.
So what's the solution?
Nothing too out of the ordinary. No treadmill, no sweat, only 5 to 10 minutes of gentle movement. Step in place. Try doing some shoulder rolls. Reach your arms up high. Take a stroll to the mailbox. Invite your blood to start its journey. When blood flows, the brain flourishes. When the brain flourishes, the entire body benefits.
That ties everything together nicely. We kicked off this episode by discussing strokes, which many people perceive as abrupt events. What you've shared with us, Dr. Hinohara, highlights the warning signs and the risk factors. They construct in silence. They begin in the tiniest, most everyday moments of our lives. The way we navigate our day, the things we overlook, the rituals that kick off our mornings.
Absolutely. Health after 60 isn't about making drastic changes. It's all about maintaining a steady awareness. Your brain isn't demanding perfection from you. It's urging you to focus.
I hope everyone tuning in today will carry this message with them. There's no need for a new supplement. There's no need for a new gadget. It's time to pay attention to the messages your body has been sending you all this time. Dr. Hinohara, the floor is yours for the final thoughts. If you could share one final thought with our audience, what would it be?
Be sure to subscribe and catch you next time.